St. Lucia. This is Open Mic, and we are back with you today. And my guest today is Mr. Dominic Fede, a gentleman who was recently selected to run the Anstey Canterbury seat by his party. Dominic, as we all know, is very much attuned to the tourism industry. And there's no better person today than to discuss what is going on in the tourism field than Dominic. But before doing that, I have many questions to ask Dominic about the tourism and the economic situation in St. Lucia. But I want to take the liberty to sympathize with the people of Dominica for what has just happened, because this is very sad. When I saw the footage on television, seems like it's almost devastating. And this is a sister island that we need to focus on. And I was very proud to learn that the United Workers' Party are considering some sort of assistance immediately. And to the best of my knowledge, they're hoping to bring in, if all goes well, 2 40-foot containers of beds for Dominica. So no doubt they'll be contacting the government and the various and the responsible parties in Dominica so they can arrange for the offloading of that stuff. Just as a little information for St. Lucia, we've already spoken to Tropical Shipping, who have temporarily agreed to take down the containers freight-free to Dominica once the government handles all the charges. So we have to push quickly, because I think Tropical's sails on every Wednesday or Thursday from Miami, Florida. So I'm asking all other St. Lucians who will be willing to contribute. They should in fact seek the assistance of helping those people, because just the timing was right, because there was an individual in Miami, actually a St. Lucian, who called me only a few days ago and said that some gentleman, they had been doing some serious renovating and pulled down about 20 or 30 apartments, and he had lots of furniture, and which he was prepared to dispose of at a reduced price. So for whatever it's worth, we have the information to hand, and anybody who calls, my number is 716-0471 or 452-4934. I'll be happy to provide the information to whoever, and they can contact the individual in Florida themselves, and they can bring down 1 or 2 other containers for the people of Dominica. Now, we'll now proceed with our day's schedule. My first question to Dominic today is, but before going much further, one word of advice to St. Lucians. We just saw what happened to Dominica. That is undoubtedly the effects of climate change. And in my view, what I see for St. Lucia is that we're not going to be suffering from a lot of wind anymore, but it's going to be water. So the people living in low-lying lands or folks adjacent to rivers or streams better be very careful, because as much as the government may want to clean the rivers and clean the drains, the kind of water that's coming down there, our waterways simply cannot handle it. So it's just a bit of word of advice to St. Lucians to be cautious. Now, Dominic, what is the situation today with our tourism industry on the island? I did hear early in the year that significant gains were made from the by the Ministry of Tourism, that it grew some 6%. But what St. Lucians must realize, that every island grew, not only St. Lucia, but I'm glad to see at least St. Lucia did. But tell me something, apart from the 6% growth, which is good, what else would you recommend or should be done as far as that is concerned?
Thank you very much for having me, Mr. Chasney. It's good to be here. It's a wonderful pleasure. And let me join you in really reflecting on what is happening in Dominica before we start. It's very, very sad what has happened to the people of Dominica. It's not a good time when, you know, we would have lost so many lives and so many people that are so grieving from the situation, and I am extremely saddened myself. So my own commiserations and my own condolences to the people of Dominica. To answer your question, I want to say that the numbers were encouraging, the numbers that you spoke of, but we have got to decide whether we want to be an average tourism destination or whether we want to be a phenomenal tourism destination. And the difference is, last year, Turks and Caicos reported figures where they grew by 31%.
31%?
31%
wow.
growth in comparison to our 6.
Yeah.
Then this year, Barbados, which we all know is recovering from an economic slump,
right.
actually recorded numbers of 15 point something percent.
For when? For this year?
For this year, so
okay.
far.
Right.
Aruba is the Caribbean #1 destination in terms of growth.
Although it's half the size of St. Lucia,
correct.
It has 14,000 beds.
Correct.
And I don't know how many flights and
yes.
how many people, yeah.
Yeah, but they grew by 16.3% thereabouts.
Yeah, and you're talking of 16% of 14,000 rooms, so you can well imagine what the
correct.
numbers are. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
When we grew 6% here
yes.
of 3,500 rooms, so
yes.
you can see the difference.
But I often question whether we really have 3,500 rooms.
Okay.
Because when we look at the number of the rooms that the tour operators will not sell, we have a lot of distressed properties, a lot of our stock needs some attention, some investment, needs some upgrading. And I think this happened to Barbados somewhat, I think maybe 5 years ago, when they didn't place sufficient attention to their own development and upgrading. And they actually saw,
a decline.
in addition to the crash, they actually saw as a result of bad room stock where they had a decline. And they're recovering now. They're doing some exciting things. When you see the type of incentive that the government has given to the private sector, that will head into the right direction for people to remodel and to reinvest into the plant and to upgrade the plant so that the travel trade is going to have some confidence in it. Now, for us here in St. Lucia, I believe that we have to now distinguish between building a tourism industry. I don't think that that's any longer tenable, but we have to build a tourism economy. And that economy must mobilize the entire society, where farmers find the 6% growth relevant, where retailers and aspiring business people find the 6% growth that we boast about relevant. So the time has come for real linkages to take place in our country in all sectors, with tourism being the backbone of that recovery that we seek. And what is instructive, though, about the growth numbers that we've had is that we see that even though tourism has grown for the last 3 years, the rest of the economy went in the other direction. So it goes to show you how far away we are from tourism really meaning something to the rest of the economy. So there's need for more creative policy in the government so that the other sectors can actually catapult from the growth and piggyback from the growth that the tourism sector has allowed. So that to me is some of the most fundamental and critical things that we've got to do with the industry. There's need for more airlift when we look at what's happening in Canada. Between 2006 and 2011, we see that we've had 100% growth in the Canadian market. What we've seen, and what's concerning to me, is that the Canadian growth rate has slowed down significantly. So while we were growing at an aggregate average of 3,500 from the Canadian market between 2006 and 2011, we're actually growing at an aggregate average of 1,500 Canadian arrivals. I think that Canada has got to be a market where we have to diversify, especially in light of the pending normalization of relations with Cuba, as this relationship continued to thaw, and the conflict that the U.S. had with Cuba continues to thaw, and they get a lot more friendly. Canada will play a significant role if there will be any fallout from the American market.
Yeah, but Canada has always played a significant role in Cuba, you know that. But it'll probably be more so now because a lot of things that were not available will become available. But just to get back to your first comment concerning the Canadian growth, what caused that decline in your opinion?
I think it's a lack of investment in airlift. When the Labour Party came in. They went after former tourism minister Alan Chasney a lot about the monies that he invested in the airlift. But when you begin to invest in an unprofitable route, or a route that people have not, a new airline coming into the business have not tried before, then you will have to give them a level of confidence so that they themselves will get this guarantee, and they will realize that they're not making any risk in terms of coming to that destination. It is a lot easier for you as a destination when an airline
is already there.
Correct. And when they know that the route is profitable, and they know the dynamics of that route.
Yeah.
Now, what has happened, I believe, is that the investment program in the airlift has slowed down significantly.
It's slowing down.
It has slowed down significantly. That aggression and vigor with which we invested in Canadian airlift is not the same in comparison to those periods.
Tell me something. When you commented on that, specifically, where did you see the reduction? In certain islands or just generally?
The reduction in
the people traveling because of the residency programs. You just made a comment that you saw a reduction in the travel.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I saw a reduction in the rate of growth.
Yes.
So
the rate of growth.
The rate of growth has declined significantly.
Mainly where? In the islands or
on the Canadian market, which could play more of a significant role to the development of our economy, to the development of our tourism industry, and we have to get those numbers back up to the levels where we were growing at least by 3,500 to 4,000 arrivals annually from the Canadian market. This is important.
Lucia, this is a very interesting comment that Mr. Fadey has just made, but we'll be right back after the end of the first segment of our program.